Hi, everybody. This is Carol from the Society of Thoracic Surgeons. This is the August 19th Adult Cardiac User Group call. On the line with me from STS, I have Leanne Jones, Ed, and Eddie Dolan, and Melinda is on as well. And then from the IQVIA side, we have Melanie, Joe, Jean, and Rhonda. I don't think I missed anybody. We're going to get started here. Thanks for joining today. Hope everybody's having a good day. On the agenda, just welcome and introduction, some updates. We will be doing polling. So there are going to be some tricky questions, but hopefully it will help you with the harvest submission deadlines and guidelines for when to submit cases and what cases are to be submitted since this is a combined harvest. Some updates from IQVIA, and then we'll take your questions. Please submit them using the Q&A function, and if you have a ticket number, please include that. There is no update on the Harvest 1 2020 report at this time. It is in progress. IQVIA has the data and they are putting that into the benchmarked dashboards. We have calls coming up this week and next week, I believe, or this week for sure, this coming up week, to review the dashboards with the surgeon leadership. So we should have those reports out to you soon. Harvest 3 2020 closes on August 28th. First, I want to talk about the aorta device update, and I wanted to show you this picture. This is an aortic aneurysm, and this is a Pepsi can. I'm not sure that it's sterile or how it got in this picture. I don't know all that, but it's a really big aneurysm. I found that. I thought you might like that. Okay, so I did post the device list for the aorta section on the website under resources. I can show you where that's at when we get through this, if you have any questions on it. That device list is going to be to fill in this model number field here. And then it's formatted as text. I understand that a vendor or two may have made this a drop down and did not allow for free text field. I have been in contact with them and they will be changing it back to a text field so you can type in either the harvest code or the model number if it's not listed on the list. I will show you how to sort through that list to make it a little bit easier because it's a pretty complicated list with all the model names listed. So I'll show you how to do that as well. We went through these on one of the last user group calls, but just as a reminder, this is the list that's available. These are the catalog numbers that match 7300 numeric ADP, 730016 ADP. So you would type in 463 for the harvest code for this field here. Here's what the cheat sheet looks like. And these are the fields that it's to be used for. This is posted on the STS website under the version 4.20 additional resource documents. Here are the harvest codes. And then these additional devices that are highlighted in yellow are additional devices that I added into the list specifically for the aorta section. The fields, these sequence numbers should allow free text. So if you want to just type in the harvest code that's associated with the device, you can certainly do that and it will help keep it really organized on your side and on our side and save you some typing. If for some reason the device is not listed on here, please do not enter in FDA other approved device, or I'm sorry, other FDA approved or other non-FDA approved device. Please do not enter that in. Please type in please type in the model number, or if you can't find the model number, then the device name. When you're looking through this list, you can see that there's quite a bit of devices here, all with the manufacturer's name. Some of them, they may both contain similar words. If you do a Control F on the document, it'll bring up the find feature and you'll be able to search for a word. You want to look for the device that matches this format. So for let's say we're looking at iliac extender endoparesthesis, you might want to search on the word extender endoparesthesis. These two would come up. And then you're going to look at the format here. This one is PLA, this one is PLL. So you would want to insert the one that has, that matches. You can just then type in 804 if the model number is PLL. And then you would type in, you know, you would see this model number on the device label. It would be PLL and then 6 numbers. Just type in 804 then to match that. Okay. So I want to talk about what data is to be submitted for Harvest 3, since this is a combined harvest with Harvest 2 and Harvest 3. Harvest 3 contains data with OR cases through June 30th, 2020. So you would submit your data from January 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2020 under these conditions. If you submitted for Harvest 1, which contained data through December 31st, 2019, and you made no changes to that data previously submitted for 2020 H1, then you only need to submit data from January 1st, 2020 through June 30th, 2020. You do not need to go back for a whole year and submit a whole year's worth of data if you did not make any changes to that previously submitted harvest. There's going to be some polling questions on these, so I'll say it again just so everybody hears what I'm saying. For Harvest 3, it contains data through June 30th, 2020. You will only submit January 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2020 if the following conditions are met. You submitted for Harvest 1, 2020, and you made no changes to data previously submitted for 2020 Harvest 1. Harvest 1 contained data through December 31st, 2019, OR dates. Now, you will submit data from January 1, 2020 through June 30th, 2020, and any data that was with changes from prior to that date. So if you made changes to previously submitted data, then you will need to resubmit a time frame that contains that updated data. So no matter what for Harvest 3, you need to submit January 1 through June 30th, 2020, and any cases that were submitted or that were updated with an OR date prior to January 1st, 2020, you will also need to submit. Okay, going with that being said, now we're going to go over to some polling questions. And these, I would take your time answering these because it can get a little confusing, but I've seen quite a few questions come over both to me and onto the STS DB at sts.org about what needs to be submitted. So I'm going to launch this poll. The question is, I harvested for 2020 H1 and I made no changes to those data, remembering that 2020 H1 is through December 31st, 2019. For this harvest, which is 2020 H3, which option is correct? I only need to submit OR dates from January 1 through June 30th. I only need to submit OR dates from April 1st through June 30th, or I need to submit 12 months of data for cabbage and 36 months of data for valve cases. I'll let that run for a little bit. Just a few more seconds here. We'll see how it goes. People are still getting their votes in. All right, I'm going to close it down in about 10 seconds here. Almost there. Okay, so here are the results. The correct answer is I only need to submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th, 2020. And this is as long as no changes were made for the 2021 harvest that you submitted. That was great. Okay, next question. So I'm going to stop sharing. I hope everybody saw that because I have to stop sharing to launch the next poll. So stop sharing that. Okay. Next question. I harvested for 2020 H1 and I made changes to a case dated September 15th, 2019 and a case dated December 22nd, 19. For 2020 Harvest 3, I only need to submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th. I'd need to submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th and a file that contains the data with OR dates for the September 15th and December 22nd case, or I need to submit 12 months of data for CABG and 36 months of data for valve cases. You guys are brilliant. I hope that these are helpful, and when you're trying to figure out what needs to be submitted and if you made changes to your cases, how you get those cases in. And we'll go over this a little bit further in an upcoming slide when you did update files, how you can get those cases in with the least amount of effort for reviewing previous cases that did not have changes made to them. So I'm going to stop the poll now. And I'll share the results with you. And the second answer is correct. You need to submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th and a file that contains the data with the OR dates for the September 15th and December 22nd case. So great job on that one. And here's the next question. This is a what do you think, because we haven't really covered this one yet, but I skipped the 2020 harvest one. For whatever reason, I had to skip it. For 2020 Harvest 3, this is kind of a tricky one. So for 2020 Harvest 3, I need to only submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th. I'm going to open the poll up. Hold on one second here. Sorry about that. I need to only submit OR dates from January 1st through June 30th. I need to submit 12 months of data. I need to submit 12 months for CABG and 36 months for valves. Or it depends when my last submission was and if I made any changes to the previously submitted data. We have to remember that 2020 Harvest 1, you skipped that. So that the harvest before that was 2019 Harvest 4, which contained data through September 30th of 2019. So all of the data that was sent over to IQVIA contained data from DCRI that was migrated over to DCRI, contains that data through Harvest 4, which is the September 30th, 2019 cases. So IQVIA already has everything, but you may have made changes to those cases. So cases before that were already submitted to DCRI. So you might want to think about that. If you made changes to cases before that Harvest for 2019 and you didn't make a submission for 2020, maybe it might depend. All right, we'll see. Let's see, give it a few more seconds here and see how people answer. Okay, I'm going to end the poll and I'll show you the results. So the third answer is right. It really depends when your last submission was. You definitely have to submit data from October 1st through October 1st, 2019 through June 30th, 2020, because that data has never been submitted. But if you made any changes to cases prior to October 1st, you also need to submit that. So it really depends on if you made any changes and when your last submission was. Okay, so if you skip 2020 Harvest 1, you must submit all cases from October 1st, 2019 through June 30th. Important to remember that all data previously submitted to DCRI was transferred over to IQVIA up through 2019 Harvest 4, this includes OR cases through September 30th, 2019. Oh, that should have said 20. Sorry, this should say Harvest 4. Disregard that 3. Same thing here. So if you made updates to cases prior to and including September 30th, 2019, which is the 2019 Harvest 4, then you must submit a file that contains those updated cases. Okay, submitting updated cases. So I'm going to stop sharing that. We're done with the polling. Great job, everybody. If you updated a previously harvested case, you must submit a file that contains that case. It can be one file. For example, you submitted 2020 H1 and now you updated a case from October 15th, 2019. You can submit one file that contains OR dates from October 15th through June 30th, 2020, or it could be multiple files. You could submit one file with the OR date of October 15th, 2020, and then file or files that contain OR dates from January 1st, 2020 through June 30th. So in order to get that updated case in, you can just submit a real simple file that contains that single date, and then you would need to submit for the rest of the harvest that hasn't been included yet in any previous harvest, the rest of the OR dates. Okay, great job. I'm going to hand it over to Melanie and Joe Brower to take over the IQVIA portion of this.
Okay, thanks, Carol. Hi, everyone. This is Joe Brower. I'm going to cover the upcoming releases, bug fixes that have been released, bug fixes that are going to be released, and issues that are currently under review. So starting here, we have a couple bugs that were fixed last weekend on August 13th, starting with STS 3615. For 4.2 data elements that are multi-select format, meaning that you can choose multiple answers, those were not being accepted by the uploader when the answer choices were separated by commas, which is how it's supposed to work. So this has been corrected, and those critical errors should no longer trigger for any of those multi-select fields. If you had attempted to upload data and gotten critical errors for any of those multi-select data elements, then go ahead and try resubmitting now if you haven't already, because that should have been resolved on Saturday. For STS, one more. Sorry, Carol.
Sorry, Joe.
That's all right. For STS 3267, this was when you were trying to update a time-only data element. So if there was a date with a time and you wanted to fix the time, the uploader was not correctly correcting those times. And so that should also be resolved. So if you were trying to fix any of your time submissions and you needed to do that, you can re-upload those files now that that fix has gone through. All right, next slide. So for this one, we have received, this has to do with something that's coming this weekend on Saturday the 22nd. So we did receive reports from several users indicating that the participant dashboard report is running very slowly. And so we have been looking into that, and we do expect that we can get a fix for that up this weekend. And so starting next week, or if you're working on the weekend, starting on Sunday, you should see performance improved for the dashboard report. All right, next we have issues under review. So these are things that have been reported to us that we're still looking into. I'm going to turn things over to Melanie briefly to discuss some updates regarding the risk score match report.
Thanks, Joe. Hi, everyone. So in regards to the risk score match report, we did have to remove the access to the report. So that happened on Monday. And so we are currently reviewing items related to that report. And of course, we just didn't want to cause more just any kind of anxiety or issues around, especially around the time of submission. So we wanted to pull the information that we have from production related to that report and review that. There were some changes that were highlighted as we spoke with STS that were made after the 2.9 specifications, where some of those changes were not mandatory for vendors to do. So we're looking at that, but we're also looking at additional calculations. So that's not the only area that we're reviewing. We're looking at the entire report. Apologize for that. So we're actively reviewing, and we have specific examples that have been provided by sites. So we will be reviewing that and realigning and making sure that we coordinate with the vendors just to make sure that everything works out across not only the vendors, ourselves, and also DCRI. Okay, so we're working across all three. So once that's done, we will be making an update and then also notifying the community of when we will release the report back into the production environment. So that's the latest update for risk score. All right, next slide. I'll turn it back to you, Joe.
Thanks, Melanie. All right, so the next Next slide is going to discuss some issues that we're currently reviewing. These are issues that have been reported to us and have been logged as bugs, but are still under review, and we're still looking into what's causing these problems. So starting with bugs regarding the uploader. So this is STS 3621. The VDV max field is supposed to allow you to submit decimal values on version 4.20.2 records. And we did receive a report that is triggering a critical error saying that the values are invalid when they're decimal values, even when the records are on version 4.20.2. So we are looking into that report. Just as a side note on that, just so that everyone's aware, if you are submitting version 2.9 records, the VDV max field will not accept a decimal, and so it would be triggering correctly in those situations. And so this bug is only specific to those records that are on version 4.2 that are incorrectly triggering that error. Next, we have STS 3613. So this issue was reported to us by one site. We're not sure what the impact is as far as the whole system yet, but we are looking into this one report. In this case, a value is present in the user's file for additional hours ventilated, but it appeared blank on the case form. So essentially, they did submit a value for this in their upload file, but on the case form, nothing populated. So we're investigating that to make sure it is an isolated event and correct it.
And Joe, I actually have an update to that because I actually looked at that one. It is isolated, and it is now showing on that form. So that is actually, and that was as of, I reviewed it maybe an hour ago, and that is actually showing. So not sure if that user is on, but they should be able to take a look and see that it is available.
Excellent. Thanks for the good news. All right, next we have STS 3266. So this is something that was addressed previously, but has been reopened. And what's happening with this bug is the user submits the file, their records are accepted and they're added into the database correctly, but the upload history shows the red X as if it had failed. In that it says 0 of your total records were uploaded. So we are looking back into that one to make sure that we do capture all instances that are causing this. Just in case you do get this, note that your records are going into the system. It's just the upload history is showing it correctly for those. Next, we have a few regarding the dashboard report, STS 2994. And a couple others. So the dashboard report seems not to be including all records when displaying information for internal mammary artery used. So we're looking into that one. And if you had reported this or the other related bugs are STS 2219 and STS 2068. So those all have to do with the IMA used data element not correctly appearing in the dashboard report. So we are looking into that. STS 3666. And so we have received a lot of reports on this one. At this time, what's happening is the dashboard report is incorrectly placing some records where the status at 30 days after surgery was indicated alive. It's putting those incorrectly into the missing category on the dashboard report. So that is something that we're looking into. The data on your forms is correct. It's just the report that's showing the information incorrectly.
Okay, Joe, this is Carol. I just want to clarify on that when you say that the data on the forms is correct. IQVIA isn't changing any of the data, so it's just displaying, it's not displaying properly, but the data that you submitted to IQVIA is in the warehouse and is not being changed to missing. It's just not displaying correctly. It's not helpful for data cleanup. That's why IQVIA is, has escalated this one, but they are working on it. But just so you know, your 30-day status is not being changed to missing.
Yep.
So I apologize that it's causing extra review. Yeah.
Yeah, no, that's important. Yeah, so just note that there's nothing wrong with your data. It's just the report is what's showing you incorrect information. All right, next one, 3581. So the graph at the top of the dashboard is incorrectly displaying the discharge mortality data. In the example that was reported for this bug, the user didn't have any missing records for operative mortality, but the graph at the top was saying they had 45%. So we're looking into the accuracy of those graphs and trying to get those updated to be correct. 3588, percentages displayed for post-operative events are not adding up to 100. So we are looking into the display of the dashboard insofar as how it shows those percentages for the data elements and making sure that those are displayed correctly and that they do add up to what you would expect. And on the other side of that coin, STS 3387, there are some situations where we're seeing percentages show incorrectly as 0%, even when there are cases in a given category. And so we are looking to make sure that also that not only are they adding up correctly, but that they're showing the proper percentage rather than 0. And then we did have another one here in regard to the missing variable report. This is STS 3419. This has to do with an inconsistency in the logic for the Social Security number data element in the missing variable report. For this particular bug, the user was seeing incorrect numbers for both the number of cases and the total number of cases, and it added up being something over 100%. Something like 800% showed on the report for that particular data element. So we are looking into the parent-child relationship in regards to the Social Security number and the identification number field and making sure that everything aligns the way it's supposed to. All right, and then a few things that are targeted for our upcoming release in September. And so the tentative date there is September 12th is the date we're looking at for that. They all have to do with the dashboard report, starting with STS 2017. The last creatinine level is showing, is not including all the cases it should be. And so that should be updated with the September release. STS 2143. The dashboard report, dashboard reporting liver dysfunction and failure missing percentage in count result. So what this is, it's flagging the liver dysfunction and failure data element as missing for records that are on version 2.81. And so that element was not present in that version, so it shouldn't count as missing on the report. And so we're going to make some updates to include the version in the calculation for that. STS 2826. For this one, the report is not correctly referencing the parent field for endovascular procedures. And so because of that, cases that did not have an endovascular procedure are showing as missing when they should simply be excluded. So we're going to make some updates to capture those instances and make that more intuitive. And then the last one here, STS 3388. This is pretty similar to the 2143 that I mentioned just a second ago, where we have some 2.9 version variables that are showing up as missing for 2.81 cases. And so we'll be looking into those instances for across the board for data elements that are on the older version so that they're not picked up as missing for the newer version.
Hey, Joe, this is Carol. I have a question. The other screen where we had like the this one, like the dashboard report displaying that this value, is this also displaying incorrectly on the missing variable report, or is the missing variable report correct?
I'm not aware. Melanie, you can chime in
This is
if you have
just
anything.
dashboard. Missing variable, we did not have a report of discrepancy. It was just a dashboard.
Okay, so they should still be checking their missing variable report to make sure that they have the mortality fields cleared up.
That's correct.
Yep.
Okay.
Because those are separate reports. It's not running off of the same. So missing variable wasn't reported in regards to the issue. It was just dashboard.
Okay, so if their sites are checking their mortality fields for inclusion criteria, they should really be checking the missing variable report anyway for those percentages. So, so everybody's listening, if you're looking for your mortality threshold to be better than the 2%, you check your missing variable report for those discharge variables and mortality variables.
Yep, that should still be accurate.
Okay.
All right, and that does it for me.
Is this you, Melanie?
Actually, this should have been pulled out of the deck. I'm not sure why this was in there.
Okay.
Yep, we did take that out.
I probably missed it. Sorry about that.
No, it's okay.
Okay. Thanks, Joe. Thanks, Melanie. The STS IQVIA support plan, STS tech support at IQVIA.com will get you to tier 1. They will escalate it and send you an email letting you know that it was escalated if they couldn't answer it, and then IQVIA tier 2 will be reaching out to you. Hours are 8 to 8 Monday through Friday, and if it needs to come over to STS, they'll send it over to us. And your resources. And then let's get to the Q&A because we have quite a bit waiting for us. Our next ACSD webinar is September 2nd at 2 p.m. Central, and that's the monthly webinar. It will be a didactic webinar, so we will be teaching on something. I just haven't figured out what yet. Melinda and I usually look at what's coming in the FAQ and find some areas where we're seeing a lot of questions that look like we need to provide some clarity, so we'll work together to review those. And I'm going to go to, let's see here. I'm going to go to the questions. The first one's from Heidi. It says, I submitted an FAQ yesterday. However, I just want to verify that in the new version 4.2, we are no longer capturing aborted cases. Is this correct? So Heidi, we are reviewing this with the surgeons. We are no longer capturing canceled cases, but that timing of when a case becomes an aborted case versus a canceled case is a little foggy right now for all of us. So we are setting up calls with the surgeons to discuss. Remember, it can take 30 days for an FAQ to be answered, so we appreciate your patience on that one. Melinda, do you have any feedback or responses to that?
No, I just haven't seen it, Heidi. So if I'll look at it and get back to you as soon as I can.
Yeah. Remember, we have 30 days to answer questions that come into the FAQ. So although Melinda does an awesome job at getting those answered much quicker than 30 days, some of them do take a little bit longer. Next question. For aorta devices, I believe I recall seeing an option for other FDA approved or other non-FDA approved. But did I hear you correctly to put the model number in if that device is not on the list? So that's correct, Bunny. I had to update that list because I'm going to show you what it looks like here and where to find it for everybody. Oh, I didn't have it in full screen. Hold on one second here. Let me get out of this. Okay, I think I can pull my screen over now. There we go. Okay, so this is the 4.20. This is the STS website in the adult cardiac section under 4.20. And down here under the aorta device list, I updated this last week, I think it was. And I removed, we had other FDA approved and other non-FDA approved devices in here. I removed those because we would rather you provide us with the model number on those devices if you have them. So please provide the model number for those devices if they are not on this list. This list is really long and painful to look at. So the best way I've found to search it is, let's say I'm looking for a stretch vascular graft and I have that label. I'm not sure what I did with that. I had a good email to share with everybody. Hold on, let me see if I can find it here. I don't know what I did with it. Remember, Melinda, I was gonna share that email?
I remember.
I don't know where it went.
I remember the email, I do.
Sorry about that. It had some nice pictures of what the model with the identifier looked like on the packaging. But say I wanna look for, let's say a stretch vascular graft. I just did Control F, or I went up to edit here and did find. And then this screen will pop up here and I just want to search stretch. So it'll go through each one that has the word stretch associated with it. What you want to do is when you do that, you want to look at these numbers and see that this is IRS and then there's 2468 digits after that. This is the one I would want to, just make sure that the amount of digits matches what's on that model number. There's another one here that says stretch, and it's a thin-walled stretch. This one has IRST at the beginning, so you just want to kind of verify that that's the correct model number. If hopefully that becomes easier for you to do it that way, and then just type in 830 or 831, whatever it matches that device. If they place one device and it covers 2 zones, do you list the same device twice? So for this question, we're talking about what do we put here for this location letter, and if we enter the same device twice. So I went over into the training manual for this sequence number 5450, and this is what Melinda has in here. It says, if the device section you enter, enters the zones the implant covers, both proximal and distal, therefore information, implant method, model, outcome, and UDI is being entered twice in the device section. So in the device section, you enter the zones the implant covers, both proximal and distal. So for this one, Melinda, is it correct that you would enter this, you enter the location, you would enter the proximal location of that device, and then you enter the distal location of that device?
Yes.
And then you enter that model number twice?
Yes.
Okay. Hopefully that's helpful. This question is related to the device UDIs, and it says STS does not want data managers to manually enter the device UDIs. And the question further goes on to say that if the UDI is scanned into the chart, you can copy and paste it into the vendor software. And yes, that's fine. And then the question goes on to say that there are a lot of hospitals that do not do this or do not have that capability. Do you really want this to be left blank? It seems like a pretty important element to have. The UDI device numbers can be anywhere from 70 to 120 digits long and include things that separate the model number from the expiration date to other identifiers within that number. If all of the characters and all of the numbers are not entered incorrectly, that UDI field becomes useless to us and to the FDA. So if you are not able to copy and paste it into the UDI field, or your vendor does not automatically abstract that for you, do not type that number in. We have had, there are, the way that the UDIs break up is usually identified. There might be a 2-digit number before an expiration date that identifies that the next set of numbers is the expiration date. If those numbers are duplicated anywhere in that sequence, it becomes really confusing to reading that, and it leads to inaccuracy in tracking. So if you are not able to copy and paste that number in, or you're not able to have your vendor automatically pull it in, do not type it in. Question for Holly. Anything to add to that, Melinda?
No, but I can take this next question if you'd like me to.
I already responded to Holly earlier today.
Oh, perfect. Okay.
So the question is the interop TEE post-procedure, is this only completed for those that had valve surgery or a history of valve surgery? For example, for a CAB, we only mark no. So this can be actually, you should not mark no, because what that means, let me pull up this field for you. This is 2560. So if you were, this is the fields we're talking about here. We can look at 2567, where it says, well, first this field, intraoperative TEE performed post-procedure, is not only specific to valves. They usually perform TEEs post any procedure they do in the OR for cardiac. So if that procedure was performed, you would answer yes. When we get down to the paravalvular leak question, this is only related to prosthetic valves. If the patient doesn't have a prosthetic valve, you would mark no. None refers to the current prosthetic valve not having any paravalvular leak. Got any additional for that one?
The only other thing I would add is if you didn't do a valve, then the mean aortic gradient and the mean mitral gradient, you just have to leave it blank in that particular situation.
Great, thank you. Next question. We do have some changes for 2019. Can I submit all 6 quarters of data at the same time. Melanie and Joe, I'll leave this one to you, but I'll leave that one to you guys.
Sorry,
yeah, that should be fun.
Okay. Thank you.
I was answering questions in the chat. Did I?
Oh.
Sorry. Which one were you leaving?
It's from Xuan Chen. It says, we do have some changes for 2019. Can I submit all 6 quarters of data at the same time?
Yeah, so long as they pull the surgery date range that they would like to export out of their software vendor system. So all 6 quarters, they have changes in 2019. That's fine. They could export and upload that. It would upload the changes that were done.
Okay, thank you.
You're welcome.
Next question. Is it possible to have the missing variable report have tabs representing the following? Mortality missing, mortality list of patients identified dead, surgeon count, and case count broken down by benchmarked procedures. As I understand it, we currently need to go to the dashboard, set parameters, then search for our missing mortality, etc. It would be very helpful to have the MVR represent this as the DQR did with DCRI. This is up for you all.
Well, this sounds like it's an enhancement, right? To include these additional.
Yeah, the surgeon count isn't available yet. That will be, I'm assuming that'll be an enhancement when we have the CRM and IQVIA platforms talking to one another. That's phase 3. And they should be able to, are they not able to sort by cabbage valve?
And the filter within the dashboard.
Okay.
You can filter by proc ID. I mean, by the different procedures, yes.
Yeah. And these are great suggestions, Heidi. Thanks for providing them. Next question. When will isolated CAP star ratings be extended to rolling 3 years similar to valve procedures? That is coming in the future. We are working on it. It will not be in 2020, probably 2021. We just don't have an exact date yet. As we get closer, we will educate on that and talk more about that risk, the risk adjustment that's going into that 3-year rolling for cabbage. Next question. This was one also question, or should we submit data 1 quarter at a time? Whatever works best for your site. You can certainly submit the 6 quarters at a time if you would like. 1 quarter at a time, or even 1 week at a time is acceptable if you would like to clean up your data as you're going. You can certainly do that too. Next question. Are any other sites having file upload failure when no files are accepted? We have 5 hospitals in our system that are not able to upload a file, and it has been escalated by Carol to, I think you mean it was sent by me to, it says by Carol to Melinda today, but I don't think that's, I may have sent it, I don't know if Heidi, if you emailed me today, I would have sent it over to IQVIA, but I'm not aware of this one. Melanie, maybe
We have a ticket ID. Yeah, I'm asking to see if someone can pull the ticket ID. I don't know if this is the same. We had one with a vendor had reached out, but the file was not formatted correctly. So that was one issue. So
okay, we'll move on.
I don't know if it's the same. Yeah, we would just need to research. We have the ticket, so we'll pull and follow up with you, Heidi.
Thank you. Next question. Files submitted 1/1 through 6/30 asked me to look at 5 records submitted. Made changes to 5 of the 100, just using numbers. When I resubmit same time frame, only the 5 cases that were modified will show in the second submission resubmission file. And that's correct. If you only modified 5 of those files out of 100, it will show 5 out of 5 as long as all 5 were accepted in. It's not going to show the other 95 that were previously accepted in. You can then go over to your harvest summary report and search that time frame, and you should see all of your cases there. Anything to add to that, Melanie or Joe?
Nope, that's correct. So exactly, that's how it would work. And then if you want to be able to review, as Carol said, review all of the related errors and warnings for the specific surgery time frame, then you would use the harvest summary report to give you that.
Great, thank you. So the recent email in regards to the aorta model number, where if it wasn't on the list, we are not to select FDA approved device and go to the list on the STS site and find a code even after following the directions, and it comes back no changes required. I'm not sure what that means, Anita, but if you'd like to email me, I can answer your question. I'll give you my email. Here, it's at the bottom here. Next question. Can you reference the whole date range that can be submitted for this harvest window, please, just for reference? So it's cases through June 30th, 2020. You can go back however far you would like. The reporting period for this time frame will be the 3 years for the valve cases or CABG plus valve cases, and 1 year, 36 months or 3 years for the CABG valve or valve cases, and 12 months or 1 year for the CABG cases. This is provided, Heidi, on the STS website, and I'll be happy to show you where that's at if you're not familiar with it. If I can find my screen here. Underneath, if you go underneath the STS National Database page, under Registries, STS National Database, and you scroll down to the harvest schedule and information, it will show you here that we're in harvest 2 and 3, so it includes procedures performed through this date. CABG and CABG cases are always analyzed right now on 1 year's worth of data, or 12 months. Valve cases or valve plus CABG cases are always analyzed on 36 months worth of data. However, if you want to go back and you're a new site and you want to go back and submit older cases just to have them in your vendor software, you can certainly do that, and back to version 2.81, submit them to IQVIA. Okay, hold on. Sorry for all the screen moving. Next question. I am still receiving duplicate record warnings. Do I need to be concerned about this?
It's a general system message. It's just to let you know that it found an existing record based on the uploaded file that you submitted. So it is not telling you that anything's wrong with the data. It's just letting you know that that same record was found in the system, and it's just a notification.
Thank you. Next question. I submitted January 1st through March 20th back in May. I just now submitted April 1st through June 30th in August. Should I have re-uploaded the entire H1 again? There were no changes to Q1. Your questions discuss half years. And if we choose to upload monthly batches and no changes were made by the time of the harvest could close, would they be considered as a cumulative upload? Yes, that's correct. You're correct, Sue Ellen. So if you already submitted, what I was saying is that the time frame for this period for data that had not yet previously been analyzed is January 1st through June 30th. No matter, you can use however many methods you'd like to get that data into the warehouse. It could be weekly uploads that make a cumulative record, or it could be, a 6-month record, whatever you normally do, whatever your practice is. I like the smaller uploads because I think you can go in and you can clean those up better and then resubmit them as needed. You do not need to resubmit one big file if you do that method. Will the risk score match report be finalized for us to have prior to harvesting on 8/28? No, Heidi, as we said in the email that I believe we sent an email out, or it's posted on the notification tab, this will not be available before the end of the harvest. Just to avoid confusion, and IQVIA is working on making it better for sites. Melanie or Joe, did you have anything to add to that one?
Yeah, it's not, we're currently actively looking at and going through all of the different calculations. It's not going to be available by the time we have harvest close.
And it shouldn't impact your harvest. Your data is going in. The risk score match does not impact your harvest. It's just comparing the risk score that your vendor, which is certified, calculated versus the risk score that IQVIA is calculating. And it's not going to impact your harvest or the accuracy of your records or anything like that. So it does not impact your harvest at all. It's just more of an FYI. The next question is, So we cannot harvest final until risk match issues are correct. No, no. So you can go ahead and continue harvesting. The risk match report will be up after this harvest closes at some point. It does not impact your harvest, so continue harvesting, please. All right, Heidi, I'm not sure why you're asking this question about how many tickets have received, how many are completed, and how many are still open. These calls are to help you do your job more efficiently and to answer questions you have regarding the platform and the data elements that we're collecting in 2.9 and 4.2. Knowing how many tickets are open or completed, that really does not impact how you do your job. So if you have a specific question or a ticket that you'd like us to check into, we certainly can. But there's no reason for us to provide tickets open, tickets received, or any information regarding that. So if you'd like to email me and clarify why you're asking, or if there's a specific ticket number you'd like me to check into with IQVIA, I'd be happy to do that. Next question. Is it correct that IQVIA has plans for reports showing missing unknown mortality? When can we anticipate that? I believe that's already available in your missing variable report. Melanie or Joe, did you want to take that one?
And I have to go back and look, but within you're able to see that information in regards to those variables that are flagged as missing, that are related to mortality. And if those are also flagged as unknown, that's also going to show up in the report.
Great, thank you. Next question is, how can we know if we are missing 30 days if it's not showing correctly? I think it is showing in your missing variable report. It's just not showing on the dashboard.
In the dashboard.
Yeah, so Karen, you'll want to go into your missing variable report and look at that field.
Yeah, the issue that we reported regarding the missing 30-day is specific to the dashboard.
Thank you. And then Laura seems to have gotten it. She says, to clarify, if we show data fields that are missing on the MVR, but those fields are present in our vendor software, they are being uploaded to IQVIA and will be analyzed to DCRI. Is that correct? And that's correct. IQVIA is not changing any of your data. So whatever data is in your vendor software that you're uploading to IQVIA is not being changed. And that will be the data that's sent over to DCRI for analysis. It's just not displaying, some of the fields are not displaying correctly on the IQVIA dashboard. And the dashboards are really complicated because of the way it pulls data, the mapping that has to go on in the background, and how it changes, the mapping changes between versions. So anytime you change a field or you change mapping on a variable, you have to be mindful of how it impacts other variables. And I think sometimes that's what happens. I'm not sure of everything that happens on the IQVIA side, but I know from experience working with Epic and doing mapping there that was one of the issues I also have faced in the past. So dashboards are really tricky to always, to get perfect all the time, especially when there's constant changes being made and we're still evolving with the new version. So the data that you upload from your vendor software is not being changed by IQVIA.
And also add, just because some of the things that I've seen with, also when you're reviewing your missing variable report, and if it's showing that it is missing and you navigate to that case form and you see that it is missing, so you see that it's being flagged on the MBR, you go into the case, you see that it's missing. In those instances, we need to review the DAT file that is being uploaded. I've seen both circumstances where the DAT file has the information, but it's not coming over. We need to research why that's happening. But we also see instances where the DAT file does not have the information, and so it is then being flagged as missing. So even though you see it on the front end in your software vendor system, it's at the time of when you export that file, that is what we use to pull into our system. So if it's not in that file, then it's not going to be in the IQVIA system. So again, want to call that out in regards to if you're running into those scenarios, please contact our support team, because we need to look at the information with you.
That's a great point, Melanie. Thank you. Next question. I'm sorry I missed it in the beginning of the call. When are 2019 star ratings available? We have a few calls with So the data is back over at IQVIA now. They're finalizing the dashboards. We have calls next week with our surgeon leadership to go over the dashboards, to review them before they go live. So it's probably going to be a few more weeks yet. We will let sites know as soon as we have a more concrete date. This should be the only time when we have a delay such as this, because of the bidirectional data exchange and the dashboard build to display the results coming back from DCRI. So once we get through this one, it should be much faster in the future. Okay, are any sites having the issues with the aortic valve replacement TAVR procedures as missing? I don't believe the TAVR procedures, and Melanie, correct me if I'm wrong, the TAVR procedures shouldn't be showing up since we don't analyze those in any way. I'm not sure if they're excluded from the denominators on the IQVIA side, or if it's just when it goes over to analysis and on the DCRI side. These are the transcatheter device procedures that are not required to be entered into the STS database.
But they're seeing this issue specifically on the dashboard. I would have to look at the scenarios.
Okay, Diana, maybe if you'd like to send in an email to the IQVIA support, they can check into it and issue a ticket number and let you know what is going on.
We would need to research it a little bit further and we can get it addressed.
Thank you. When the H1 2020 National Report Dashboard becomes available, will there be an overview on how to navigate this report? It is a very important report and often used for facility administrative report out, so it would be helpful to know how to utilize it to its full capacity. Yes, we will be doing we'll be doing training on it when it becomes available, and hopefully we can get that before it actually goes live. But we do want to get you those reports as soon as possible, but we will be doing training on them as well. How do we know when we are good when harvesting? Unless one goes through all of these elements on their dashboard, they likely won't be aware of whether or not all of this is accurate for our facility. I'm not sure what you mean by that. Additionally, if it is not represented correctly on the dashboard, but it is correct on the warehouse side, how would one know? So you would need to use your harvest summary report, and you would need to use your missing variable report. This is very confusing, time consuming to know when we are actually okay with our submission or not. What is our best way to know that we have finished harvesting, if the updates affected us or not? There are lots of questions in there, Heidi. You're going to look in your missing variable report, your harvest summary report, and check out those elements from the critical errors and the errors. The critical errors are not going to get that file in or that record in. The errors will allow it in, but you still need to check them out to make sure that it's acceptable to you. And the warnings are also areas you'll need to check out. So anything to add to that, Melanie?
I would agree. Yeah, when basically doing the comparison of whether or not you're good, it's reviewing the harvest summary, your missing variable, to determine if there are any key variables that are exceeding the threshold. Review that report, and then review the harvest summary report, which will basically give you all of those validations related to the errors and warnings that that need to be reviewed. Okay, great. Well, it looks like we're at time. So there's one question here from Michelle. It says, did I just hear that 30-day status will not be seen on the report? So you check your missing variable report and your harvest summary report. The dashboard is just specific to each upload that you do. So if you do multiple uploads, the dashboard is just going to be specific to whatever upload you're looking at. The harvest summary report is a more inclusive report, and it's going to provide you a time frame. So if you're looking for January through June, you want to filter on that, and you can filter on specific procedures to check. If you want to look at CABGs or AVRs, you can filter on that report to get you more granular detail for that whole time frame. It's a more inclusive. Again, that's the harvest summary report. The missing variable report is also based on time frame, and you'll be able to see on the missing variable report how you look for each variable that's on that report regarding missing. So it is, the 30-day status is available. I would check the missing variable report and the harvest summary report. Let's see.
Oh, I have to replace the list. I'll ask Paul to replace the FDA approved were removed from the list for the harvest codes. So we'll have IQVIA replaced with the new list in the IQVIA library. Sorry about that. I'll go through these questions and see if there's any that we haven't answered yet, and I'll send out emails after I go through these and respond. So there's one response here to my previous answer regarding the manually inputting of the UDI. It says, but if the UDI is left blank, it's also useless to you also. It's also useless to you also. Right, so if we don't get it in, then we don't get it in, but we don't want it in incorrectly. So it has to be correct if you're going to submit it in. Do not type it in. I guess that's it. I'll go through these questions and see if there's any here that I can answer and respond via email. Melanie and Joe, anything to add, or Melinda, anything to add?
No, I'll just try to get questions in the FAQ answered as quickly as I possibly can. The queue is pretty heavy these days.
All right, yeah, it's really heavy. And just so everybody knows, Melinda's doing a great job, but we have a version change, so she's getting questions for 4.2, and we have the end of the harvest, so still questions for 2.9. So she's going through those as quickly as possible, but there's a lot of questions coming in.
And I had a quick response for someone that asked, where is the harvest summary report? That report is located under the operational reports menu. And it is listed under the STS reports. If you were to, there's a little arrow or a little carrot icon next to the name, and you'll see that it's listed there. It's called Harvest Summary Report.
Thank you. Thanks, Melanie.
Okay. And I had one other, we're trying to look for, I think it's Schwen. Schwen, if you can just put in the chat your participant ID. I am not finding that ticket ID that you had provided. I apologize, but I'm not finding it, and I don't want to miss this because I know you're trying to get some assistance. So if you can put your participant ID, then maybe we can do a search that way.
Great, thank you, Melanie.
Thank you.
All right, thanks everybody. I hope you have a great rest of the day, and any questions, please reach out to us and we'll get back to you as quick as we can. Thanks again, and we'll see you on September 2nd at 2 p.m. All right, take care. Bye.